Part of the problem with people in New York is they don't calculate the return on equity. This guy bought it for 500 grand. Now it's worth 3 million. So he's saying he's still thinking about the 500 grand. He has $2.5 million of equity. What's your return on that? I'm sure it's not very much. You should take that $2.5 million and repurpose it and buy something else with it. So, but that's hard to do because when you're emotionally invested in these things, it's like a house. He's lived in it forever. You have to divest yourself of being emotionally attached to it and treat it as an asset.
This is the real estate investing experience. We get it. Real estate can be rough sometimes, and that's why we bring in the experts to talk about the experiences you won't hear anywhere else with your hosts, John Cohen and Chris Grinzik.
Hey guys, we're back with another episode of the Real Estate Investing Experience. I'm your host, Chris Grinzik, and beside me as always is John Cohen. John, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. We got no complaints. It's a beautiful day. Beats the rain the other day, and we have a great guest today.
Yeah, for sure. We got our first little sniff of cold fall weather for the past couple of days, and now we're back up in the 70s. So,
yep.
First time I really felt like I needed to wear a jacket outside, and I wasn't too thrilled about it.
It was upstate, my favorite time of year upstate, because right around now you have your 70, 80 degree days, but at night it's 45, 50 degrees. So, you have shorts and a sweatshirt, but it's just the fall's a great time of year. So we're coming into the fall. We're super, it's fun. After Labor Day, life starts again. Summer sort of everyone goes, MIA, but it's exciting, Last bit of summer, it's sad, but we're going into the fall, which is fun.
Yeah, we'll see if it starts to pick back up. It's been a little quiet at work so far. I mean, we've been busy, but It's been tough to get a hold of some people. But
that's for sure.
Without going too much into it, we'll dive right into it. We got an awesome guest today. Very happy he's here to join us. I'm sure most of you have probably heard of him, but I'm going to let him introduce himself anyway. Gino, thanks for joining us.
Guys, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us your background, wherever you want to start, wherever you want to end up, and whatever you want to splice in the middle. Tell us a little bit about you, how you got into real estate, and where you guys are today.
I'm going to make this quick because I could probably do a whole show on my bio because I've been around a little bit longer than the both of you. I didn't start out in real estate. I was the pizza guy. The drug rep is not on today. I think you interviewed the drug rep a few days ago. So,
the better half for last.
Don't tell him that. I told him everything he knows. So, that's an ongoing thing. Hey, listen, pay to play or seek to serve. That's what Jake did. He seeked to serve. He didn't know what he was doing. I mean, it's amazing what he's gone through, his transformation. He's a real business guy, from a W-2 person to an entrepreneur on steroids. That's what I call Jake. Seriously. He's a make it happen kind of guy. And you guys, joked around that, it's hard to get a hold of people. That I don't want to curse. That shit don't fly when you're in business. If I can't get a hold of you, I need to get a hold of somebody that can get a hold of me. That goes down to it. When it's time to close, don't go on vacation. If you do go on vacation, don't go to some third world country that doesn't have internet, because you're going to need to get it done. Don't make those excuses. For sure. That being said, we bought a restaurant back in New York over 20 years ago. I loved the business for 15 years. I was with my dad. It was an Italian place. I was with my brother. I got burned out. In 2008, I said, this sucks. I'm working harder, making less. And I just saw the curve of what was happening in New York. I saw the shift of politics. I saw all the regulations coming on. And I just saw the small businesses. I just saw the shift with the internet. I saw, delivery and everything. I said, I've got to get out of here. Went to coaching school, life coaching school. That was a transformation for me. So if anyone wants personal development, go to life coaching school or take some classes, because figure out what your why is. Figure out how to learn how to listen to people. Figure out how to ask people questions. Figure out it's not about you, bro. It's about the person on the other side and how you can help him. And once you have that shift in your mind, stuff will start flowing to you. I wanted multifamily because I didn't want to fix and flip. I already had a job. So I gravitated towards multifamily. I probably skipped the most important thing. I've got 6 kids. I've got an awesome wife. We homeschool our kids. So, real estate and family, it's all one to me. So it was a shock when I told everybody that I want to leave New York and move to Florida, and they thought I was crazy. And now everyone's following me. It's just a better lifestyle down here. I love it down here. We ended up moving 2 years ago, and just we're continuing to buy assets. We bought our first asset in February of 2013. It was a 25 unit little property. Perfect size for us. It was a great start for us. And since then, we're at about 1,500 units. We bought the first 1,000 units by ourselves, just me, Jake, and a partner, Mike. We were able to refi over $9 million from that portfolio, continue to buy. We did things a little slower. We should have more units, but that's okay. We didn't syndicate. We didn't know what syndication was. And once we learned what syndication was, we're like, this is a cool model. It's a tool in the toolbox. It's a great way. And It's not, you don't have to start there. You don't have to end there. It's just whatever the deal looks like. Every deal has different parameters. Some you can syndicate, some you can. We've syndicated 3 deals in the last 6 months. We bought 1 deal internally. So just learn the strategy and learn what you're trying to accomplish with your deal.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting. We were talking before we actually started recording, and I kind of want to go back to it. Can you talk more about like why you decided to move to Florida? And, now that everyone's following, I'm sure a lot of people know about it, but can you talk more about like personally for you, why it was so attractive?
Well, a couple of things. I just mentioned it on another podcast. Read the book, Big Shifts Ahead, because I'm not the smart guy. They'll break down demographics for you. There's 78 million baby boomers, 79 million millennials. The baby boomers are retiring. They're leaving their house in Jersey for $700,000 and selling that and coming down to Florida. The guys in California are leaving and going to Boise, Idaho, going to Salt Lake City, going to Utah, and going to Nevada. They don't understand that their $1.2 million little shack in California is buying them. And it actually accelerated. A house in Boise is $500,000-$600,000 now. It's expensive for somebody in Boise, but it's a deal for somebody in California. Those shifts are happening. The immigrants that are coming in, they're not all hopping the fence. They're coming here on planes and they have money. They're renting. So you have to look at what's going on demographic wise. And the reason why I came to the Southeast is, the climate is much better. Unfortunately, guys, the people are nicer down here. They just are.
Get out of here.
You go into a Starbucks, they actually look at you. My kids are like, they're really nice here. And then you don't really know how nice they are until you go back up to New York. Because I go up to New York 2 or 3 times a year. I go back. And it's just really amazing. Everyone's busy. There's no eye contact. There's, kids here, the 15, 16 bag of groceries. They're like, so how's your day going? I'm like, how's my day? You're asking me it never happened to me in New York, bro. So that you have the tax, you saw what Trump did with the tax law. We were talking about the property taxes. Anything above 10 grand, you can't write off. It's no state income tax. So, I just tell everyone out there, look at it from logic perspective. Don't look at it emotionally. Because if you look at it emotionally, you'll never want to leave. But if you put the pros and the cons, I had a lot of pros to leave, right? Like I said, the quality of living, the cost of living, the great weather, all of that. But then the con was leaving the family. That was the hardest one. And I had enough pain that I said to myself, I want to be outside in February and March. I don't want to be with these snowstorms. I want to enjoy the weather. I want to enjoy my family. I want to bike ride. I want to go to the beach whenever. I couldn't do that in New York. Like you guys are saying, you already feel the cold weather. At this time, when I was in New York, I'd be getting depressed because I know that I've got another 6, 7, or 8 months before the weather comes back. And I just I don't want to live like that anymore. So if anyone who's thinking about it, just think about it logically. Speak to your spouse or whoever you're with and just say to yourself, do we have to? And then figure out a plan. And multifamily allowed me to actually leave New York and do what I'm doing down here.
Yeah. Before we get into anything more, how did the real estate tie into that decision? How has it helped you scale the business? If it has, how is it tied into that decision, moving into the real estate and then moving down to Florida?
So I had weaned myself off the restaurant. So anyone out there who's an entrepreneur who has a job or a W-2, you don't have to quit right away and go into multifamily. You can take baby steps. You can get into multifamily by raising money for somebody else's deal, figuring it out, and still doing your job. So in October of 2015, I said to my brother, I'm leaving the restaurant for the week. I'm going to work with Jake and Gino Monday through Friday, and then I'll work at the restaurant Saturday and Sunday. I did that for 6 months. My wife really wasn't too thrilled about it, but I'm like, if we have to do it and make the transition, we do it. So March of 2016, I left the restaurant for good, came down to Florida for 2 months to live here to test it. That's what I'm saying, test and measure. So I lived here for 2 months before I ended up moving it. My kids loved it. Then we ended up moving in the following year. And, multifamily real estate allowed me to do that because I started Jake and Gino. We started the podcast. We started the education. I was able to do work wherever I wanted to, basically. And, Jake was running the property management day to day. I would have moved to Knoxville. If I didn't feel like that I loved the Florida and the beach as much, I probably would have gone to Knoxville. It's a great place to live, but I had my eyes set on St. Augustine and in the Jacksonville area because I was actually moving into this area to continue to invest and say, you know what, I'm going to build out the portfolio here. I'll start another management company here. And, one tip for everybody is don't listen to professionals because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Because when I moved here back in March of 2017, everyone's like, the market's overbought, this and that. If I'd bought 2 years ago, I'd be thrilled right now, but I had listened to everyone because cap rates were compressing. Because when you're buying something in March of 2015 for 40 a door, then when you come down here in March of 17, it's 60 a door. You're like, these things are overpriced. And now that same asset, 1974 C asset, it's freaking 95 a door. So don't listen to people. You have to do what you think is right, and you have to always be able to analyze the deal and analyze every single situation. And I wish I hadn't listened to them, but I'm sorry, Chris, to your point, I moved down here because I wanted to invest and I wanted to create my backyard. So have little Jake and Gino, have little property management, and unfortunately, we haven't done any deals here. My brother's moving down here, so he's going to start looking to buy stuff here. We'll just bring our systems from Tennessee down to here, and he'll run an office down here.
We're going to have some more competition in Jacksonville. No, but to Gino's point, I think so our manager in Jacksonville, it's our best team, no doubt. I'll give her all the credit in the world, Lisa Massis. We'll get her on here one day. We'll get her. We'll shake her loose. Same thing. There's a deal that just got listed in Jacksonville. Reserve at Beach Boulevard was the old name. I don't know the name of it now. Park it, whatever it's called. We had it. A buddy of mine, a very good friend of mine, had it under contract in 2015. $24 million. Couldn't put it together. It wasn't shaken out. Back on the market now at $36 million. And me and Lisa look at deals the same way. And I shit on every single deal I see, and it's always overpriced. But we looked in Jacksonville in 2013. We fell short for 4 years. And then I just pulled the ripcord. I said, it's never going to work. 2017, we bought our first deal in Jacksonville that at the time I thought the only reason why I bought it or why we bought it was because Lisa managed it already. And I said, you know what?
I remember you speaking about that deal because we were doing the mastermind and I'm like trying to make the numbers work. And I was short-sighted like you. And that's how you limit your downside risk, because when you're playing with investors' money, you have to be really careful. You just can't throw out numbers there. And that's the part. So right now we're at the part of at the cycle. I think it can't go much higher because I was looking at an asset in Jacksonville in Orange Park. It was 120, 130 units. It was like 90 something the door. And I'm thinking to see it's a 74 build. I mean, I'm like, and I think whisper price is 10.5. So we underwrote it for 8.5. That's $2 million above. And they're talking about they renovated.
So don't worry.
I'm sorry.
We were at the exact same price, and I would have. It was a nice location, great property. I just could not get. I couldn't get there.
So
no way.
Have you seen you saw the deal across the road just got listed not too long ago, right? Promenade.
Okay. So the Promenade, I went to see the Promenade. So the deal you guys are talking about, that's what they're trying to comp. The Promenade. So then I went to go look at Park across the street. That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah,
so I think
both as well.
Guys up in New York are looking at that. And I went out like 3 weeks ago. It was 100 degrees on a Friday in the afternoon. Just got to make it happen, right? I got caught in that traffic. The traffic is amazing there. There's not much inventory there. I think that's the problem. It's a nice submarket. It's right off 95. It's beautiful, but it's a 74 build. And they've tested it and they've renovated 7 units. So you've got another 120 units to go. It's already the top of the market. If they were trading it for 70 or 75 a door, you've got another 10K per door run. I can understand that, but they're going to get, they're 10.5 to 11 million. They're going to get like 100 a door for like a 74 asset.
Like 105. But you know what happened with that deal, right? They bought it in like 2016 for like 65
a door. Yes.
They budgeted to do renovations and they just didn't do them because they just kept charging more rent.
Yes.
Rent just kept going up and up.
That's like Jacksonville's MO.
Yes.
Yeah. The new, how they have like the new sign and the new thing.
Yes.
All done in the last 4 months.
Yeah. They put shutters up. The shutters look nice. They might have done the roofs.
Stuff was done for a sale.
Yeah. And that's crazy.
That's half the stuff you see. It's just rents just keep going up. And it's like, I said, I probably would, if I had $4 or $5 million, I probably would have, or if I had 10 million, I would have bought both of those properties for whatever they wanted. Personal money, I would have bought it because I believe in that area for the next 6 years. You can't build anything there anymore. There's not enough land. Nothing's been built there since 2005. So people love it. It's like the second or third best school district in the area or the MSA. It's up there. I don't know exactly what it is. You probably know better, but it's a deal I would love to own because the location's great. But when you put numbers on paper, to your point, you're like, this doesn't fucking make sense.
So let's talk about that. That's the 3 pillars of real estate. Our coach, Bill Ham, says it's market cycle, it's exit strategy, and it's debt. So your exit strategy is great. You don't have one. You're going to buy it for yourself. You're going long-term. So if you overpay, quote unquote, that's one thing. But if you put all 3 of those components together, you might get good debt on it, right? But the cycle, part of the cycle you're buying it for your investors, it's a little top heavy right now. And like you said, if you want to park money and you've got some money, you want to throw it there and just keep it there, because I know Jacksonville's got a big run. They've got another 5 to 10 years. If they ever figure out the airport and they get more people coming in here, because it sucks to fly in here. Like they've got terminal A and C. If you open up B and get those people coming in, because the jobs are coming down here, right? And it's a huge city. Huh? Yeah, well, they do, but it's okay.
But the travel, you would think New York to Jacksonville the flights aren't that good.
They're not.
They're shitty, and it's that would be a huge component. But I agree. I think out of where the market is, why we've been very bullish on Jacksonville, and we've gotten there. One, we've gotten really good buys. But the other side of it is I do feel like, yes, we're here on the market cycle, but I think Jacksonville's got some more legs, whether it's 5, 3, 7, 10. I'm not going to put a number on it, but I feel like fundamentally and economically, it still has really good fundamentals to run a little
bit. But what do you guys think about the rent growth? Because rent growth has been really, really strong for the last 5 or 6 years. Yeah. Where is it the component come when rent to own is more expensive than buying, right? Because that's we're not there yet. And a lot of that's why Knoxville is great, because Knoxville is really cheap to rent compared to owning. So we're going to continue to have rent. And we've had Knoxville's had rent growth in the 4 to 5% the last couple of years. And it's been really, really strong. And I think it's going to continue to trend upward. There's not a lot of supply in Knoxville, whereas Jacksonville, they've got a lot of A stuff coming on. But the Promenade, I don't think those deals can really qualify as an A asset, because they don't have those beautiful pools. They don't have the cafe. They don't have the sauna, the fitness club, the clubhouse, the internet, the Nest, all the technology. They don't, so I'm not sure.
I do think you could do a much like an A interior and $100 below, and people would live there, maybe 150, depending upon what the average rent is. But nobody's going to do that because you don't need to. It doesn't matter. People want to live there, and they've got no other choice. So rents just keep going up.
That's the scary part.
In that, especially because that little pocket, that's almost like a quote unquote like mini downtown metro area, because you can't build without knocking something else down unless you vacant to build up. You can't really do it. And then we found out too, there's in that Orange Park area, because we actually looked at a deal to knock down and build. And there's the city of Orange Park, and then there's Clay County.
Clay, yes.
And Park Village and Promenade are in the city of Orange Park. And you can build to a density of 30 units, which makes sense for a quote unquote infill or quasi metro area. In Clay County, even if they're infill, it's only 16 unit per density. So if you go outside that area, but still in that same little pocket, it's impossible to build. So unless you're in that little city of Orange Park, you're never going to build anything there. You're never going to build 200 units. So you're so protected. You're so insulated against future development. That's why for me, if you had personal money, you could probably flip out of that thing in 3 years for 110 to 120 a door without doing anything.
Pending market.
Of course. Pending market, of course. If everything stayed the same, no downturn, no big recession, unemployment, all that stuff stayed level or relatively the same, rents are just going to keep going up 4 to 6% a year, because you can't build anything else in the city of
Orange Park. Did you look at the what was the other deal? CBRE deal.
Woods at Fillmore?
No, I didn't see it, no.
It's a deal you buy at 80 a door, you put in 20 a door, and you have an A property.
Yeah.
But the problem is they wanted 110 a door.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and you're overpaying to begin with, and then they're assuming that you can do nothing to it and get that thing, and you can't do that. You have to put it. But it's important what you guys are talking about. I think all the listeners really need to hear what these boys are saying. They've done their due diligence. They've done a lot of homework. They've gone into a market. It's not like you just wake up with this knowledge. There's a lot of due diligence that goes in on the front end. When you start this process, whether you're buying a 4-unit or whether you're buying a 200-unit complex, it's important to dive into the market, to dive into the specific, what are the laws? What are the tenant laws? I mean, that's why New York is another thing. You don't want to own housing up there. You see what they did with their affordable housing laws up there. They can change. So make sure you go.
So I was a former broker at Marcus & Millichap for a short period of time when I was there. I had clients recently just call me back up. I haven't spoken to them in 4 or 5 years. They're like, "You're buying stuff outside. Can you sell me your properties?" Because buying property in New York is worthless now. If there's any stabilization or any component, and that's a law that was changed that you have no control over.
That's right.
Which is now it's like another shot in the arm for your Atlantas, for your Jacksonvilles, for your bigger markets, because these guys are buying 4 caps in New York that are now worthless because you can't raise rents. They would love to go buy a 5 cap or a 4 cap in Atlanta. So it's now you're competing with New York money that's always historically played in New York, and the landlord laws in New York, especially the immediate metro, sucks. So like that stuff you have to know, and just because you're in a market and you've heard about it, City of Orange County and Jacksonville are different. And, you take that same property and you move it to the, north or right into the west side of Jacksonville.
It's 40 a door. That's what it's worth.
Totally different. And you may think, well, it's close, it's similar. And you got to know your sub-market just as well as you know your overall market, because that's where you're going to, you could look to the left. And this happened in Jacksonville early on. I mean, even some deals that have sold where you would look here and they had valet trash class A, and you turn around and there's bullet holes in the wall. And not knowing that and looking online, you may say, wow, look, there's a great deal at 50 a door, but no, it's not. You're on the wrong side of town.
Yeah. But just going back to New York, when I was in the car with Ben, who's our Freddie small balance lender at CBRE, he was telling me he's doing a refi on a deal in the Bronx. The guy, it's a rent stabilized. He's taking the refi money and putting it into a CD. So in 5 years, when his expenses and mortgage are more than his fucking rent, he's going to use that CD to pay the money he's going to owe every month because it's rent stabilized and it won't go up.
That's
insane. He's holding a deal that he's expecting the expenses and the mortgage to be more than the income he's making. And he's going to take that refi money to pay down. He's going to be negative. Extra money.
So that's, to me, that's completely asinine. That makes absolutely no sense to me.
I was like,
do you know why?
People will pay to own real estate in New York, and it makes no sense. I was dumbfounded.
That's unfortunate because he's probably an expert. He's probably a really smart person, but that's his only paradigm, and he's never thought outside the box. And he's got those limiting beliefs. I mean, what they're doing over there now, I think these properties are going to be assessed at lower, because if you're going on basically on a property tax perspective, New York's going to have a budget shortage, because once you've done that, you've already gone with the NOI. NOI is going to drop on these properties, and you've hurt the tenant, because the tenant's not going to get the same quality, because who's going to paint? I ain't painting. I ain't fixing anything.
They made a rule you can't spend more than $15,000. You could spend $50,000 on a unit, and you can't, like, you could use to do major capital improvements, and there was ways to take the money and bill it back to the tenants to raise rents. They've capped that at, I believe it's $15,000. So
it's the same concept as the $10,000 in taxes that you can write off.
Yeah,
that you were talking about earlier.
What they did, they basically put a law in place to almost like pat the slumlord on the back, because now that the buildings are going to be worn to shit because there's no incentive from an owner to put money into it. It's insane.
I agree 100% with you guys.
They're going to have to crack down so hard on violations to force people to spend extra money that everything's just going to become worthless.
It's crazy. But like, you know, and the only reason why, and that guy's, let's say he could be the smartest guy in the world, he could be the dumbest guy in the world. We don't know, but he's, to put, let's say you pull out $1 million and you put it in a CD. I don't care what is it going to pay you? 2%?
Yeah.
2.5%. So you're willing to take 2.5%, or you could sell that building at a small loss potentially, go invest in a Knoxville, in a Jacksonville, in a in a Lexington or a Louisville, and you could probably get a nice 7, 8, 9, 10, 12% cash on cash over the time. You don't have to worry about a CD and it just sitting in the bank.
If I knew what I know now, I would be that guy, and I would say, whatever the deal's worth, let's say he gets $3 million for it, I would say, hey guys, can I GP with you? I'm going to give you my $3 million. I'm going to put $3 million on the LP side, make 8%. That's $240,000 a year. And I'm going to own a little GP, a little acquisition fee. And I'm a sponsor in the deal, and I'm actually part of the deal. And that would make 150% more, but maybe he doesn't know that. That's the problem, because people know what they don't know. What you don't know, you don't know. That's why everyone needs to get educated. They need to join an academy or a training or whatever, a group, because you're going to learn a lot of stuff. And more importantly, you're going to meet people that you've never talked to before. And all of a sudden you're like, I never thought of assisted living, or I never thought of Lexington, Kentucky. What's in Lexington, Kentucky? Good luck. And we just got a deal that we're closing tomorrow. What a great market that is. High barrier to entry, really nice city. You can't build, and it's great. We're actually we're in a 70s build, but it's in a great location, dude. I mean, you got studios 1s and 2s right near Whole Foods. It's part of the suburban. Read The Big Shifts in Time. That's where they want to live. They want to live in those suburban areas where
So my best friend is a trainer for the Diamondbacks. His parents, his father was from Lexington and his mother was from somewhere in the Midwest, or vice versa. His mother, whatever, doesn't matter. But we looked in Lexington 2 years ago. I flew out there with Dave, and I texted her. I said, hey, she lived in Long Island, New York. Her husband trained horses for the Phipps estate. Her son's now a doctor. Her other son's a trainer. What were they living in Old Westbury, New York for? Getting raped. So they moved to Lexington, Kentucky. She plays golf 4 days a week. Hey, they're retired. And I text her. I said, hey, I'm in Lexington. Like, what are you doing in Lexington? I said, I'm looking at apartments. She, oh my God, I haven't seen, let's have lunch. I went to Lexington, had lunch. It was great, but it's a nice market. But so I'll give your counterpart and, Jake, he recommended a book on the last show.
Mhm.
I bought it. It's sitting on my desk. I'm gonna buy the book that Gino just spoke about because that's the stuff that people. Chris said it the other day. He's not a big reader, but I brought the book.
What did he recommend to you? What book?
Blue Ocean Strategy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is that Phil Knight's? Is that on the Nike story? Yeah. Jake's read a couple books. He'll audible everything, but there's a couple. I know he's read the EOS, the traction book. I know he's a big Ray Dalio guy. He loves Ray Dalio.
Principles.
This Blue Ocean Strategies, that's another one. And I thought he was going to say Atlas Shrugged. I thought he was going to tell you to go read Ayn Rand. But those are they're great books. And if you don't read, just audible. That's what I would do. Just sit there and audible. If you don't like to listen, you don't like to read, just listen to them. Put it in your ears. Shut the TV off. All the doom and gloom. we're going to have a hurricane this weekend. Can't do anything about it, right? So just shut that off, and whatever happens, right?
Exactly. No, but I think that's the part that, if you're listening to this, obviously we appreciate it. Listen to Jake and Gino's podcast. It's great. But I think part of this is not just to let you guys know what's going on and, super experience from Gino's side and taking action and, leaving New York and the pizza place. My friend 2009, I graduated college, went to Subway school to buy a couple Subways. Didn't do it. My brother went to restaurant and hotel management. Two of my friends from high school, their dad owns a pizza place. We called him and said, hey, I want to own a pizza. Oh, it was a dream of mine. I'm going to own a pizza place, Italian family, whole 9 yards. And he's like, don't even think of it. The laws are changing. It is totally different. Yeah. He bought a second place that went out of business. And this is a guy that's been doing it for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And then he bought another location. It just didn't work. But, this is the reason for this is so people hear the real stories, the real truth, and then also to educate them so they don't make a mistake where they have to go put $2 million, $3 million in a CD, which is literally losing money.
Yeah,
because it's you're basically saving for a loss that is coming, which is crazy to me.
I couldn't even figure out what is your mindset? Is it just you just think New York is the best and it doesn't matter? I can't even understand that mindset, knowing everything we know now just about all the out of state and going for cash flow and future value. I can't wrap my head around it. And
this might be a guy that this might be a person that just can't let go. Maybe I'm not saying he's got an ego or anything, but maybe he thinks he's the only one that can do it, and he doesn't want to partner with anybody, or he doesn't. And that's what happens when you think you know more than anybody else, and you don't go out there and take a look and see what everyone else is doing. You're stuck in your own head, and you're like, okay, I can control it. But yeah, that is absolutely, to me, that's lunacy, man. By the time you got inflation and taxes, you're negative. You're at a loss on that.
You're throwing money in the garbage. And I'm on, I'm definitely on the page, and I say it all the time. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I have to learn. I'm a little hard-headed. I have to do it and make a mistake and say, I have to learn from what I just did wrong or what I did right, but just not 100% right. But, you can't, I'm 32 years old. I know, maybe 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I thought I knew everything, but, and your parents always tell you, and I'm sure you tell your kids now, trust me, when you get older,
you're not as smart as you think you are.
You're definitely not. But if you can learn that early and, be open-minded to partnerships or be open-minded to JVs. And we do it all the time. We have a 1031 investor in our new deal in Columbus. He came into another deal of ours, really successful. He's rolling into this one as well. But it was a guy that was hell-bent on a strategy until he got a little, okay, you know what? I will invest. He owned a couple of duplexes in Jersey. He's a great guy, great investor. And he rolls with the punches, and he's like, wow, this would never have been available to me in a 4-family deal in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I could not have achieved, there was a 16-month deal we rolled out of. He made 20+%, give or take, who knows, more, in that range. And, his deal he bought in Jersey was a 4-family that he lived in, which was a great buy when he bought it. But, he was looking to do that again, and it just, the returns weren't there. Mm-hmm. But that's a guy that, okay, maybe I'm hell-bent on one thing, but I educated myself, experienced, went to a ton of events. He was at your event that you guys, that Dylan that we co-hosted.
Yeah.
But you just got to get comfortable being uncomfortable and educating yourself and being open-minded. You can't be closed-minded in real estate because there's opportunities out there that are going to slap you in the face. And you're just going to be too foolish, or you just don't want to think about it. The first time I bought a deal in Columbus, Ohio, people looked at me like, "What the fuck are you doing in Columbus, Ohio?" I said, "I'm a broker in New York. Why would I ever?" We sold a 6-family, completely renovated, no value whatsoever, at a 1.7 cap in Ridgewood, Queens. And when we put the value together, I remember it was me and my teammate. We were 3 of us sitting there, and I was like, there's no idiot that's going to buy this deal. And this guy's never going to sell it. We have to put a big number on paper. We did it. We sold it in like 24 hours. We made 10 calls. And it's like, oh, yeah, no, great. 1.7 or maybe 2.3. I was like, 2.3? What are they doing with it? I thought this was like normal behavior. And then you go out and you offer on a deal in Columbus, Ohio, and, you know, you're buying it for 23 a door, and you're just like, shit. Maybe 4 or 5 more of those.
I wonder if part of it, though, is too, you know, in the last, I don't know, 30 years, New York City has changed so much.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
I mean, you look at, you know, there's that show, The Deuce, where it talks about Times Square in, what was it, the 70s. You wouldn't let your kids walk down there now. But now Times Square is probably one of the, you know, the safest places out there.
I still wouldn't let my kids walk.
But you get what I'm saying? Like, if you think about that, I mean, I tell all the time, you may not know this, I actually live in Brooklyn and Williamsburg, and I lived in Bushwick before that. And when I first started moving there, all my parents' generation moved away from that area. And they're like, why the fuck are you moving to Bushwick? They're like, do you want to, like, are you okay? Like, do you need money? I'm like, no, like, it's actually a nice area now. And it's just crazy how much it's changed and all the money. So there's probably, if you're in real estate in an area, you start to meet other players. They've probably made so much money. He probably, you know, if that thing's worth $3 million, he probably bought it for $500,000 25 years ago or something. So he's like, well, it's made me X, you know, it's going to make me that in the next 25 years or something like that.
We have a very good investor that was buying deals in Bushwick and Bed-Stuy 30 years ago. He said he needed a gun to collect rent.
Yeah.
And once I started doing this, I reached out to him, I sat down, and he was like, you know what? I'll give you $100,000, right? Because it was new. Now he's in every single deal. He's one of the nicest guys that I know. Mm-hmm. And he's just bought into it. Now he calls me. He's like, hey, I'm going to sell my 6 unit. I need a 1031 it because I'm not buying another deal here. But he's been very happy with what we've produced for him since 2014. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now he's actively looking to sell what he thought would be his staple family legacy properties in New York, because when he invests with us, he puts half in his name, half in his son's name, or half in his name, half in his wife's name. So he splits it up and he puts it into like the family that way. But it was a guy that owned, you know, maybe 30, 40 properties in the tri-state area, New Jersey and New York. And he loved going into the workforce housing stuff in New York and Jersey. And then when we started doing what we did, and we buy C and B class workforce housing, not unsimilar to you guys, pending, you know, we have some nicer stuff too, but they just fell in love with it. And it's a great product class to be in. And I think that you guys do a fantastic job on it. Their story's great. No, for sure. What you guys have done is, you know, I look at what you and Jake have done on the management side and everything, and I say, you know, that's something that we're looking to do. It's, you know, not that I love third-party management or hate third-party management. I just think having your hands in the cookie jar and you know what's going on is so important. Mm-hmm. That
I think, let's get back to the Brooklyn guy, though. The part of the problem with people in New York is they don't calculate the return on equity. This guy bought it for $500,000. Now it's worth $3 million. So he's saying he's still thinking about the $500,000. He has $2.5 million of equity. What's your return on that? I'm sure it's not very much. You should take that $2.5 million and repurpose it and buy something else with it. So, but that's hard to do because when you're emotionally invested in these things, it's like a house. He's lived in it forever. You have to divest yourself of being emotionally attached to it and treat it as an asset, treat it as something that's paying you every month. And if you can do that, you'll make a sound logical decision. So if I got $2.5 million just sitting there doing nothing, burning, and I can put that $2.5 million making 8%, I mean, that's a lot of money. And then you buying an asset that's undervalued with value add component to it, you're going to even get more of a bang for your buck.
Yeah, so it's like amplified. It's like adding gasoline to a fire. And he said that because he said, well, my deal now, it's worth about 3, give or take. He said, but I'm making about $70,000 a year on it. I'm like, he's like, do you think I'll be able to make 70 on my $3 million? I said, yeah, like you'll make 3 times that. Yeah. Like there's no doubt.
$70,000 on $3 million.
Yeah. He's got a $3 million building that he bought for, you know, he actually at one point he owned like 6 brownstones next to each other. He bought one. The other 4 owners on the block, 5 owners, gave him the keys, and they said, just take the properties. They're completely worthless. So he had $15 million right next to each other. But
that's nice.
He sold those.
But those are the stories why people hang around.
But he had the wherewithal to say, you know, my $3 million building, okay, on paper it's worth $3 million. That's great. But it doesn't make me. It makes me $70,000 a year. Mm-hmm. He's like, all I got to do is if I sell this in 1031, can I make more than that? I was like, yeah, we're gonna do just fine.
A lot more than that.
Don't worry, I'll make you $200,000. You know that. So my family, my grandfather had a piece of property in Jersey City. triple net lease right now to Verizon. And they're fighting because there's my mom, two sisters, a brother, and then a 50% partner. They're all yelling at each other because Verizon just said they want to leave their lease. They're going to pay us a year up front and they want to leave. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? This site that's just a $30 million site with no debt on it. I'm like, you guys have no worries whatsoever. What are you worrying about? They're bitching. Well, we're going to have to build it out and we're going to have to release it. I said, guys, you own a $25 million piece of property in downtown Jersey City, unobstructed views of Manhattan. You have nothing to worry about. And they make $400,000 a year, collectively split. So my mom is like, well, what am I going to do? I was like, no, you're going to sell it. Sell it for half the value. You'll make 4 times of that in any deal you buy. And you don't have to do a crazy syndication partnership. I said, listen, you can go buy your own personal deal. I will buy this one. And but it's amazing that there's so many people out there that are super smart, super successful. You guys probably run into it all the time. They have these properties that they have no idea what the value could be bringing them in. And I don't like debt. No one said you had to go lever it up at 95%. Go put 50, 60%, 10-year fixed, agency debt on it. And what are you risking?
Yep, I agree with you.
Not a whole lot. And especially today with rates. I mean, I think I was talking with Marma last night. He said your Lexington, you got like a 3.5 rate on a
3.52. Yeah, 5 years of interest only. That actually made the deal work. The cash on cash was like 7. It bumped it up above 9% day one. So we try to buy stuff that's momentum. We try to buy stuff that's got something built in, but we know that on the back end, there's value. We can raise rents or we can lower expenses. That's what we're looking for. We don't do what you guys do, the complete gut rehabs. We're putting in 20 a door. We don't want to do that. That's something we've bought a couple of those assets in the last couple of years for ourselves personally. We bought a little 146 unit back in December in Knoxville from our title company, split apart, 40 units, 30 units, but they were all able to be managed from one of our offices. Right. And that thing had 40 units down day one. So that's something where we'll buy it internally, where we don't really care. We're going to refi that thing out in the next 12 months and get all our capital back. So it's just me, Jake, and my partner, Mike, buying that because we don't want to risk investors' money. If something goes sideways, and we're not taking draws. Actually, we've taken some draws because we got an 85% loan to cost on that. So we're actually getting a lot of rehab. 80% of the rehab is getting paid by the community bank. So it's a community bank. So it's a recourse deal. So we don't mind the contingent liability. So we don't have to raise money from investors. Like I said, it's debt and the exit strategy. So we're probably going to refi this thing out. It'll make our portfolio stronger. It's just, that's a heavier lift. And if you can budget for that, it also takes a lot of resources. So the property management company, we're using a lot of our CapEx guys to do. We've got a little construction guys, but we've got to source some of that work out. So just when you get into a deal, think about what the end deal is. Is this a syndicatable deal? We could have syndicated it, but do we have the investors who don't want to take a draw for 6 months or 8 months or 12 months? You can. I mean,
so I was going to ask you, so from that standpoint, because it's an interesting concept, right? And I asked Jake the same question.
Yeah.
And I think I know the answer, and I would do it the same way. And we do this, we're not doing stuff unsimilar. Like a lot of the deals, and we've been very good over the last couple of months, we've been buying deals with our own cash, all cash. And then while we go get debt on it, that's when we'll raise the money. So then the investors look at it and say, okay, and it's not like, hey, you have to invest or we're not going to close. It's, do you want to invest? If you do, great. If not, we're going to keep it ourselves. From your standpoint, when deal comes into the hopper, it goes through, it passes all the tests. What is the defining line, or is there, where you say it's a Jake and Gino deal or it's a syndicated deal? Or
that's a great question. I mean, like I said, there's 146 units. We didn't even think about it syndicated. And it's funny because now when the deals turn, are your investors going to say, well, you should have get it up, but do you want the pain?
That was going to be the next one.
I mean, like I saw zombies out there. We went on there. I saw guys running back to their apartments. I mean, listen, the first week we took over, there was a story about a person being in their unit for 12 months that had mold. He had disabilities, and we had actually news reporters come online. We had just taken the property over a week, and then like all that bad press. Your investors want to be part of that deal? Our investors right now, I don't know if we have the investor base or the investor stomach to do that. So I don't want to showcase that deal. But then when we buy for 26 a door, we put 4 a door into it, and then we're going to refi it out at 45 a door. There's 15 grand in equity at 150 units. You guys can do the math. That's a lot of money, man. You're securing it. You're going from, community to agency. That's the other thing. It's recourse debt. We're signing on it. Do you want to be part risk taker in that? I don't think investors want that. And that's, you really know they can't do that in a syndication. So I think if it's a Jake and Gino deal, our first syndication we did last year in November, I'll give you a perfect example, John. You got to rip off the Band-Aid. You got to start somewhere, right? So we said, let's start our first syndication. Let's start small. It was a $6 million deal in Louisville. We raised $2.5 million in 2 days. Never did a raise before. So let's start small. We were going to buy it internally. It was just me, Jake, and Mike. But I'm like, let's just start, see what happens. That deal is probably going to be worth, we're way ahead of what our expectations were, at like $80,000 a month in collected rent. We started out with like 60, 64, 65. That deal is probably going to be worth $9 million, 9.2 in come spring. So that thing is, it's a different strategy now. We went in with one strategy of just holding on for the next 3 to 5 years. This thing, I think in 2 years, we can turn around and make $3 million in equity on this thing from 6 to 9. That's something that I probably would have bought internally if I'd known that, because that's just like, do it $3 million and then I control my own destiny. I don't have to worry about selling it off to investors. I don't have to worry about giving a rate of return. If you can buy some stuff for yourself internally and hold it with your partners, that's a great strategy. That's always cash flowing. That's generational wealth. That's cost segregation. You can utilize that for yourself. And that's what we did in our first 1,000 units. But then as you get bigger and you start raising deals, I think syndication is awesome because you can get into some really big deals, some really big economies of scale. You have a little asset management company where you're getting asset management fees. So there's so many benefits to that strategy also. But I think just basically trying to see what your investor base is, what their appetite is. I mean, we need APREFs. I mean, that's what the market's giving right now. We need APREFs, and we're looking at 15% IRRs, and we're looking to underwrite 5 to 7 years. That's what our investor base is. So that from that standpoint, this Lexington deal, right down what Jake says, right down the fairway. That's right down the fairway. I mean, that's such an easy deal to raise. So that's what I think is the difference between something we buy internally, which is a lot more risk. Because like I said, if you don't get paid month 3, I mean, investors are like, dude, where's my draw? Well, for me and Jake, you know what? We don't have to worry about it. We can defer. Because John, an important point here. The problem is you have 2 sets of people. You have the residents, the tenants who wanted a nice place to live, and you have investors who want a rate of return. So you have to balance between the two. It's really hard. So Jake and Gino, we buy our own deal. We don't really care about ourselves because we can go long term. Yep. We need to take care of the residents. So there's the balancing act. So when you're getting into it, if you're thinking about raising money, just remember you're going to have yin and yang here. The residents need a good place to live, and the investors don't want to spend too much. So that has to be on the thought of your mind also. And that's why, as we've been doing these syndications, we have these monthly webinars. We let our investors know what's going on. That if there's not enough, we haven't fallen short yet. Thank God it's been a year, but that's something that you have to think of as you're starting to do this business.
Let me ask you a question. So you've owned deals yourself, you've owned deals with investors. Is there a part of you that says, well, we know owning a deal for yourself is easier. No one to answer except for yourself. You look in the mirror, you make a mistake, it's on you. Does the investor relations component of a deal, because I say it all the time, I think knowing what your investors want and knowing who they are is more important than anything else. Because if you buy the wrong deal for the wrong set of investors, you're in for 12, 24, 36, 48 months of hell.
That's right.
So now do your investors, hey guys, I wanted into that heavy lifting deal, or you don't even give them the opportunity because they may say they want in, but they don't really want in. And on the investor relations side, you, Jake, and Mike look at each other and say, guys, we're not taking money yet. We're going to put more in because we have to it's worth it. We just got to do it. When the investors are, even if they want in, do they really want in? What do you see?
That's a great question, because we had an investor actually say that and goes, what are you holding it for yourself? Now this deal, he didn't put any money on this syndication also. So Marma's been a godsend because we had 600 investors on our list before I started syndicating. I couldn't reach out to them. I couldn't create substantive relationships. A lot of them were coming from Jake and Gino students in our platform. So that's a different business in and of itself. So you need somebody out there picking up the phone, talking to these investors, cultivating the investors, and then, oh, by the way, you need to underwrite deals. And, oh, by the way, you need to go look at the market. So when you're buying deals internally, that's off the table. And you're obviously going to run out of money. You're just going to run out. I mean, like I said, $9 million we refied. We got to a point where, and the other thing is you want to start looking a little bit bigger. You want to push the boundaries. You want to start with the $3 million deal, then the $5 million deal, then the $7 million deal. We closed on a deal in April that was $17 million. Now this one's $10 million. If you want to get into the $20 million deal, you need to raise $5 or $6 million. You run out of money. And plus, it's also good because you're actually, what's great about it is you want to diversify yourself. So I've got money on LP on all three of these syndications. There's a different stream of revenue right there where it's actually truly passive. So I'm on the GP side and I'm on the LP side like you guys. And it's freaking awesome because you can start really building that way. And then on the GP side, you're getting all these tax benefits without having to put any money in. It's just mind blowing. If people really knew how amazing syndication is from that perspective, where you're getting tax benefits and you're not actually putting any money down, it's freaking unbelievable. You can kill Trump all you want. He didn't make that rule up, but he's actually exploiting that rule. And I hope everyone out there exploits that rule, because that is a great reason why to get into real estate.
Oh no, it's 100%. I think that's one of the big. We have investors that literally just want to know the tax side of things. They're just, I don't care about the IRR. Just tell me, what's a depreciation, how much we're writing off, because they're super savvy guys that understand, and especially our deals. Our deals are, we're typically not doing deals down the fairway. We're hitting out of 18 inches of rough, with 4 trees in front of us, and we're doing heavy lifters. So there's even there's more benefits to that. Not that there's less benefits on the other side. It's different benefits, but the other one, and I think this is another good part for the questions, and I think you touched on it, or not questions but comments. Investing in your deal and being the GP, that's where the real money is made, because you're getting a great return as an LP. You're getting some upside for doing the operations of the deal. Is there, being a syndicator and a sponsor of a deal, there's a lot of money to be made. Fees, asset management, acquisitions, whatever people charge. But you really make money when you play on both sides of the coin. Do you see a benefit to not being on both sides, or being on both sides, or being on one side or the other? Where do you like to land, and how do you educate, the Jake and Gino listeners, the current investors? What do you guys try and spin off to them?
It's funny, because if I had $6 million and I was a doctor, I'd be great with the LP side, right? But I'm in the business. So, I think it's a fiduciary responsibility for me to put money into my own deal, to show my investors that I've got skin in the game. And that's like anything else. I'm not going to give you free education because you're not going to use it. But if I pay you, you're going to use it. And it's just like being in a deal. We put about 20% of our own money into our deals. So at least people know that we believe what we're selling. And I think if you're on the GP side, I thought, hey, syndication is great. You're not putting any money in the deal, the GP, but you're taking all the risk. You're signing on the docs. You're doing all that heavy lift. You're doing all that work. You need to get paid for that, So I think that's important. So if you can do both sides, great. If you get in your first deal, you don't have any money to put down, you go with the sweat equity, you give them the majority of the deal, you do a 90-10 split, you give them all the cash or whatever you need to do, but for your first deal. But then as you start getting better and you start building up some cash reserves, I'd love to see people roll some of that acquisition fee into the LP side and get a taste of it. Because, $100,000, you get $8,000 a year. That's a nice little draw. You do that 7 or 8 times, man, you can start paying for kids' college every day of the week with that. And it's passive. That's truly passive, the LP side. The GP side but that's a mindset, right? That's a whole business thing right there. And then on top of that, you've got acquisition fees day one. Then you've got 1%, you raise $2 million, 1% of $2 million for an asset management fee. That's $20,000 a year that you're making on that. You can start creating a business and hiring other people to help you with this business. Yep. Disposition fees, refi fees, whatever it is, as long as you can put it in, budget it in, and actually make the deal work, that's awesome if you can do that. So whatever you can get, as long as you can hit your IRR and your investors. Hey, listen, you guys know Vinny Chopra charged a 4% acquisition fee on a $50 million deal. That's $2 million day one. Imagine that, bro.
That's nice. I don't know what's happening, but
it's funny. There are structures out there. I see some of these syndicators now, and we get the emails and they come in, and I look at their structures and I'm like, the fuck are we doing wrong? Like, where are those guys? We did a 2% acquisition fee. You would have thought we were murdering firstborn kids on a deal. And now one of the investors, who's our biggest investor, he's basically like a partner. He's in all our deals. He's phenomenal. Without him, we wouldn't be here. He called me offline. He's like, so some of these guys are complaining about the fee. I said, listen, it's market. And then I sent him, we sold a deal. We sold a $14 million deal, and there was like a $700,000 acquisition fee on the closing statement. So I sent them the closing statement. I said, hey, look, this is being done in the market. He's like, done. He sent that closing statement to everyone. Everyone's like, fine, we'll pay it. It's not fee, because these guys are not, they're not your mom and pop $100,000 guys. These are guys that have $200 million in liquidity, net worth. And, they're doing deals. They're investing in, they know about these syndications. They know about these models. They're investing in $100 million deals in Manhattan and in LA and developments. And those guys are charging 1%, but it's 1% of $100 million.
$100 million. That's right. Totally different.
So they look at 2% on $30 million and they're like, oh, that's ridiculous. It's like, no, you just paid that guy 4 times as much money. Give me a break. And he's showing you a 12 IRR. We're putting on paper 15, 12, 18, whatever it is. It's, hang in there. But it's funny because guys could do it and they get away with it. And I say all the time, we have 3 cold callers in the office every day, and they'll bring a deal to my table. And they're like, well, what kind of fee on this? I said, well, you could charge me $1 million fee. You got to buy the deal for half the price. Like, if the deal supports it, I'm all about taking your fee, right? We're not running a charity. And you said it yourself. You gotta hold people accountable by doing it. And there's no, charge the biggest fee and charge what you can, because a lot of people early on, they give up so much. And I'm on the school of thought of stand by your ground and find the right investor. Don't just give away the farm, because if you have no skin in the game and no upside, you get blinded. And then next thing you know, this deal's not doing well. You don't care because you're not going to make it.
You get burned out. That's right. Yep, that's right. I agree with that 100%.
Or you get burned out completely.
Or you burn out. You're like, this is worthless. I'm not going to make any money. And you throw in the towel.
I agree.
But I think just back to your point about where you're talking about starting to roll your stuff into it. I'm 27, so I've only just started to see that in the last 2, 3, 4 years, where as more and more money's come in and invested it, and now a couple deals have gone full cycle. It is crazy the compoundedness you get through that as you start to put it in and build it up, and you get both sides of the coin. It just amplifies everything. So where you were saying, if you have to start without it, fine. But if you can start doing it, you should 100% do it, because it just makes everything significantly better.
It does. It does. And that's part of the problem with multifamily. It's difficult. It's a long game. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, man. Yep. And it's hard because with instant gratification, you can order something on Amazon today in Jacksonville and get it same day. I mean, that's how we are. And if you're thinking, well, listen, you're going to buy a deal and it's going to take you 6 months to turn these units, and you may not get paid for the first 8 months. A lot of people shy away from that. So you just have to know that it's a long game. And then if you can put your time into it and you can work on it, it's so well worth the benefits. But you just have to have that long game mentality. You're not flipping a house in 2 months like you are in residential. And you don't want to do that, because then when you flip the house, there's nothing left. You got to go flip another house. So the mentality is completely different.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's probably taken 2 years to kind of get to a stage where it's deals are now buying and selling, and you're getting both sides of the coin every couple months or every, 4, 6 months. But it took 2 years to get there.
That's right.
You don't have the capital up front to put it in, and deals are just starting. So you're getting your foot in the door, and these deals take, luckily we've had deals that have only taken, 18 to 36 months. Instead of, even though a lot of them were saying, could take, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, with the market and just some of our underwriting, we've been able to do it quicker. But it takes a while. That deal's got to go full cycle before you really see the benefit. Then you take that additional capital, reinvest it, and then now you're getting better cash flow than what you were on your initial. And it takes a little bit of time. And I think people struggle to see the long-term vision of it and how it just builds on top of each other. And yeah, maybe you're getting $200 a month on your investment, the first couple ones, but that 200 is going to, after you sell and build up equity, it's going to go to 400 and then 600. And then you've invested a couple times and it starts to make sense.
I agree.
Love it.
Awesome.
What was I going to say? Is this good?
We can cut it there. Yeah. I know you said you got some things to do, so we won't keep you too long. Sure. But thank you for coming on. This was awesome. You want to tell people what you got going on? I know you guys got a conference, podcast, books. Why don't you tell us what you have going on, where people can get in touch with you all?
I'm sure Jake hit you up, hit everybody up. It's just JakeandGino.com. I mean, just go on there. We've got 4 podcasts a week. Multifamily Zone, I do one with my wife. We have a Ram Partners podcast, which Dylan and Jake do, which is great. It's on syndication. I have a Movers and Shakers podcast where we highlight a student every week that closes a deal, and then we have the Wheelbarrow Profits. So the podcast is really, really fun for us. We have a conference in Orlando, October 19th and 20th. If you guys can make it down there, it's a great conference. We're going to have about 500 to 600 people there, all multifamily investors. That's a lot of fun. Go out and network. Go out and find these events that you need to go to. Go raise capital. Go network. Go find the deals. We've got a book called The Honeybee coming out in October also. And there's so much stuff going out there. So, I mean, you just got to continue to grind. Just enjoy what you're doing. Figure out what you like in the business. Do you like to raise money? Do you like to underwrite deals? Do you like to do day-to-day? Do you like to property manage? Whatever it is, just find out whatever you love to do and then just learn it really well and just excel.
I think Movers and Shakers is an understatement. Jake and Gino, the team is great. They're good guys. Listen to their stuff. They put out good content, and they're making it happen. They're doing it the right way. in this business when there's a lot of things that people do, maybe, underwriting not properly.
No shortcuts was
No
what you're saying.
shortcuts. They are doing it. They are doing it the hard way. They are starting at the bottom and climbing to the top, which is awesome. Gino, thank you for coming on. It was fantastic as always. And, we look forward to continue to talk and see what happens.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on. Take care.
Later, brother.